What's up, everyone? This is the Retro Matador. My name is Retro EJ,
And I'm Matador Gabe.
and this is our show. With our new show, we're going to sit down, watch some movies, discuss some movies, pretty much have a review and commentary over it. Now, before we start our show, we do want to let everyone know that there will be spoilers, so spoiler warning. Now, Matador Gabe, what is the first movie that we'll be discussing on our show?
Ring ring. Ring ring.
Hello,
Hi, what's your name?
Casey.
Do you have a boyfriend? Today we're going to talk about the movie Scream. 1996, the original Ghostface killer. Well, not the
Yeah.
original, but you know.
Not the original.
Ghostface, we're talking about Scream, the Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson creation. This is one of my favorite slasher movies. This is one of my favorite horror movies. It just so happens that it came out right when I was a young, impressionable child. And I used to freak out about Ghostface. But yeah, that's the movie that we're going to cover today.
Definitely, for sure. If you couldn't tell, it is both of probably our one of our favorite slasher films of all time. Such a great movie, written not written by Wes Craven, but directed by him. Who was the writer again?
Kevin Williamson. So Kevin Williamson wrote all of the Scream everything. He wrote Scream 1, 2, 3, 4. He's writing the new one. He wrote the TV series. He is Mr. Scream.
Mr. Scream himself. Now, Scream, for those of you who don't know, Scream is a slasher flick about a teenage group of kids and a stalker, pretty much stalking them, and it's just a killer who did it mystery movie. And honestly, hands down, one of the best horror films of all time. Again, from Wes Craven himself. Again, Wes Craven wrote Freddy Krueger in the 80s.
Damn little shits.
What'd you call me?
Not your friend.
So he did come up with Scream. They did go out and make this movie, and they made it super meta, which connected to actual horror films in the world. And we get our favorite things: rules, horror film rules.
What rules? You don't. Jesus Christ, you don't know the rules?
Have an aneurysm, why don't you?
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
Before it was like the unwritten rules of the road. It goes without saying, like, you knew what they were because you watch the movies and you see the tropes that keep playing out. But like this movie decided to say, hey,
Number one, you can never have sex.
Man, this is some bullshit! Move this man!
Okay? Number two, you can never drink or do drugs.
Just went by, man. Hey, man, we're being pulled over.
And number three, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
I'm getting another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back.
and then it's funny how like it makes fun of itself in many ways, and it still manages to follow those rules.
And I definitely agree with you. It is a horror film, but the more I watch Scream, the older I get, feel like it's a dark comedy. At the same exact time, they do have a parody of Scream called Scary Movie, which we love. It's a hilarious movie, but also I feel like Scream itself makes fun of itself while it's in the movie, but it makes it so good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the it's funny that you bring up Scary Movie. So Scary Movie is actually the original title that
Yeah,
they
that
were
is
going
correct.
to use for this movie. So technically, Scary Movie is Scream, and then they were like, we're gonna go with this title, and then they ended up using Scary Movie as the title for the first parody that majorly parodied Scream anyway. So I think that was cool to go full circle like that. But you're right. This movie is more than just scary. Like as a kid, I was scared, but
Mhm.
as you know, we watch so many horror movies. It's harder to be scared now.
Yeah.
To really immerse yourself into it, I find myself laughing. We've watched so many freaking movies, and we're just constantly laughing at like every line. Uh, it's to me that's the horror director's intent. If he's really trying to scare you, then I mean, like awesome, but that doesn't happen very often. There's only a few movies that I can say really scare me. This used to scare me. Now it doesn't scare me at all.
But
But the
definitely this has a place in your heart because when you're younger, it scared you. So when you watch it, you still kind of you're not scared now, but I feel you get put in this place of nostalgia when you watch this movie. You get giddy like, oh my gosh,
yes,
like it's a nostalgic giddy feel versus I want to be scared. I want this to put me kind of back in that mind space, but it's just such a great movie, man.
yeah, it is. All right, so we start this movie off. You're in a farmhouse. You're in the middle of nowhere. You have this girl, Casey Becker, and she's in here, and there she is, right there. She's just at home alone, right? And then she gets a phone call, and that's the first thing that you get is the phone call, and this makes like the series basically.
Yeah.
It's about the killer that's on the phone disguising his voice, who has like the coolest voice ever, first off. And second, so he calls and he's like, hey, you know, what's going on, what are you doing? And then she's like, oh, not really wanting to talk to him. And then he keeps on calling back. She hangs up. She's like, there's a number that you can call, and 900 number or something for like
Sex
talking to
line.
people. Yeah, so like she's trying to avoid it, but his voice is so like captivating that he keeps on, and she starts to kind of get interested in what he's talking about. And I think it just kind of plays into that part of like these are people in high school, and
Mhm.
when talking on the phone, at least back then, was more the way we did things.
Yeah.
And
Facts.
now we're on social media and stuff. This is way before all that stuff, so they didn't even have caller ID on this at this point. So she was just like,
Some did. Some had. I think Sydney had caller ID if I'm not mistaken.
I
I could be
I
wrong. No,
I
it's the second one.
it's the
It's the
second.
second one.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
It's the
That's what
second
they
one.
do for the second one, so they can't get her with the same trick twice. She learned from the first one, but anyway, yeah. So I mean, it just kind of set it up as like this is a very like uh, far out place. She's at this farm place. There's
Mhm.
nobody around. Nobody's gonna come to be there. So he's on the phone telling her, and then asks her name and stuff, and then she's like, "Oh, well, why do you want to know my name?" And then he hits her with the, "Because I want to know who I'm looking at." And then it does the, she had that moment of like, "Wait, what'd you say?" And, "Oh, I want to know who I'm talking to." She said, "That's not what you said."
That's not what you said, sir.
Yeah, so I mean that was awesome. That was a great way for you to get a feel for like, whoa, somebody's out here, they're watching me, right? Like this is the cell phone like beginning era, like where cell phones became popular. So like it's kind of strange to even get a call from somebody who could be right outside your house,
Yeah.
like, and so they really made a play on that, and I think that was pretty cool.
But I feel the opening scene for Scream does a lot for the series in general. It really does, like you said, set the tone for all the movies. Not saying all of them are perfect, and I know people feel their ways about the entire series. I'm a diehard fan of the series, but it's hard to not say that Casey Becker is a pivotal character to Scream, even though she's on screen for 10 minutes. I mean, even like you said, it sets up everything with her and the killers, but you get the icing on top when her mom comes home and her dad comes home looking for her, and he tells her to go outside, go to the Johnson's house
Oh
or
yeah.
someone's house down the street, and she opens the door and sees Casey there, strung up, dead, and she hits the scream, and then you get the opening credits. It's just beautiful, man.
Yeah,
It
it
is
is.
beautiful.
It's amazing. So you have that whole scene set up. You get to see Ghostface. It's a crazy costume that I haven't seen before, coming in there, and it's a real creepy face. That's like he has like he's almost like sad and it's just like it's a weird ghost face. But yeah, it just adds to everything in that movie, and like you said, it does set everything up. If you look at other movies, if you look at any of the other ones, they always play off of that first scene.
Yeah.
They're always here's the phone call scene. In the second movie, they show you the same thing as the remake Stab or whatever. It's the
Mhm.
same exact scene, right? And they're doing
Yeah.
it that way, and then in the further movies they do the same thing. They have that opening scene, even when they're just trying to be like a parody of itself. Like it's always goes back to Casey Becker's scene, and I think that says a lot about the power of that moment.
I mean, just the movie in general, like not just there's so many powerful scenes. You have the closing party with, pretty much finding out who's killing all these teenagers. Again, that party scene, Stu's house, is a stamp on the horror community. When you see it, it's hard not to recognize that house when you see that house.
Yeah.
So, it's just such a pivotal movie. Now, before we get a little too deep into stuff, we do got to talk about our final girl.
Final girl. Final girl. What's a final girl?
Our final girl is someone that lives through these treacherous, disturbing things during this movie. Not just this movie, all horror films, most horror films have a final girl or guy. Um, we have probably one of the queens of final girls, Sydney Prescott, played by Nev Campbell.
You okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Great job.
Amazing. Now, not only do we have our beautiful final girl, Nev Campbell, who continues to come back to this day to be in Scream movies. Thank you for doing that and blessing your fans with that. We also have Matthew Lillard playing Stu. We got Courtney Cox playing Gail Weathers. We have David Arquette playing Dewey. We have Rose McGowan in her prime, actually, playing Dewey's sister.
Yep.
And Billy Loomis is being played by
Skeet Ulrich, the Johnny Depp clone.
the clone of Johnny Depp.
That's it. That's what everybody says. I mean, I get it. They kind of look alike, but I mean, you can tell the difference.
He looks just like Johnny Depp in Crybaby and Scream. Like
Yeah.
just like Johnny Depp in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did a great job with the cast. The cast is all star. I mean, I don't know. I was young
I'm sorry.
in
I forgot
1996.
I forgot one person. How did I forget him?
You
Are
forgot.
all
You
are
forgot
all
one person.
one
Oh yeah,
person.
Jamie Kennedy. You didn't even
Yep.
say it.
As Randy.
He's the rules, man.
Definitely
Yeah,
forgot Jamie Kennedy.
yeah. I mean, but we didn't forget. He's one of the main parts of the movie. One of my favorite parts too. But
Yep.
yeah, I think this cast is star-studded. They're probably at different points in their career at this point in 1996. I don't know much about 1996 Hollywood and stuff like that, but I just know I know all of these actors, right? I know more movies for all of them, and they sit with me. But they're always these characters to me. Like they played these parts really well. and we're always going to be grateful for their performance.
Definitely. And I think I think, as a fan, they really do still care for Scream. There was actually a Scream, like a Comic-Con, recently this summer. They spoke with fans, and a lot of them returned, to speak with their fans. And again, like I said, the Scream community, it just feels like a community at this point. It is a horror film, it is gory, it is bloody, but again, it's filled with fun, it's filled with laughs, and it's something to bring people together in a weird way. I hate to say it like that, man, but it really does bring people together for laughs. Just
Yeah.
something to escape from.
Yeah, it is an escape. It's a way to get through things. We're going through a pretty hard time right now, and hey, they put it on HBO Max. Shout out, one of my favorite apps. It's on there. All three of the original trilogy are on there. You can catch them there. But yeah, like it's a way to get away from your regular day life and stuff. Movies are great for that. And I think that Scream in itself, you don't have to wait till Halloween to watch this stuff. This is fun anytime. Throw on some popcorn, turn off the lights, and just get into it. I remember watching this when I was younger, and I remember distinctly being in the middle of it, and he calls the phone, it rings, and then my power went out. And
Oh
then
no.
and then I looked outside the window, and I promise every single person who's listening, I promise you that Ghostface ran across the yard, across the street. I was done. I was terrified. I went and hide in my closet, and I was not coming out. That is a real killer. That's why.
Ghost
That's what makes it. That's what makes this nice. Michael Myers and Jason and Freddy, like the original slashers, they're like monsters, right? Like
Yeah.
they're like an extension of the movie monster, but they're also an extension of just like they're slashers, right? But
Yeah.
they're like supernatural, right? Ghostface is just a person. Ghostface is
People.
well, yeah, people. Spoilers. It's people dressed up in a costume, and that's scary. That's something that could happen in real life. Like, I'm not afraid to go to sleep and then
Yeah.
get murdered in my dreams. Maybe some people are, but I'm not. But I am afraid of the crazy person who I work with or go to school with, or what I mean, like, to find out that people next to me are getting killed and gutted and all that stuff. That would freak me out. So yeah, it's a super scary element that they add to it to make him actually like a person, and
Yeah.
still somehow like they're impervious to all the stuff that happens to them. Like, they're almost supernatural, but they're not. Like,
Exactly.
you can stop them, but you almost can't stop them.
Facts. But what I do, like you're saying, what they add to Ghostface is, you know, he's a person. So he's clumsy at some points. Sometimes you see him trip and fall, and it adds to the comedy of it, but also it adds to the level of horror that people don't see. They think it's a joke, but just because he's clumsy, that shows you he's a human. A human is out here murdering like teenagers. It's just so many levels. This movie is an onion that you can peel back. The more and more you watch, you just keep peeling layers off, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, if we left off talking about the first scene. Well, we talk about the first scene that we have the Scream Queen pop out, which is Nev Campbell. She's in her room, and so this is a Wes Craven film, right? So he calls back to Nightmare on Elm Street in the scene where she's at her window. Well, she's brushing her hair in her room, and then she goes to the window and she screams real loud. And he pops in. Billy pops in, her boyfriend, and then he's basically like telling her he was watching The Exorcist on TV, and it reminded him of her.
And it reminded me of you.
It's already like kind of creepy, but it calls back to the scene with Glenn on Nightmare on Elm Street where he he pops into Nancy. He
Nancy's.
pops into Nancy's window.
I'm sorry. I saw your light was on. I thought I'd see how you were.
And yeah, so he scares her, and he was just like, "Oh well, I saw your lights on, so I thought I'd check on you." Like, it's just that callback. It's Johnny Depp again, and then Skeet Ulrich. So it's like literally like, let's just recreate this scene. He did add a little bit of subtleties to it, but it's a nice swerve
Yeah.
for a person who's watching this, because at least we don't know the time frame between when Casey Becker was murdered this night, and then we cut to he's popping into this window, into her window in the same night, and everything just seems like normal for high school boy sneaking into his girlfriend's bedroom, and but if we do that callback and we're thinking about that scene from Nightmare on Elm Street, if you've seen that first and you understand that, then you know that Glenn is a good character, and he's on her team and he's on her side, and he's gonna be there to protect her, etc., etc. And then we know what happens with Billy Loomis as we go through the movie, but I think just setting it up sets you up for the swerve that you're gonna get at the end, and I think that was a really good way to do it.
I mean, it's definitely a swerve. And again, spoilers, the definite killers. You find out who the killers are in the end of this movie. Come to find out, it's Billy Loomis and his friend Stu killing their friends the entire time.
Corn syrup. Same stuff they use for pig's blood in Carrie.
Surprise, Sydney.
You have these different theories on who you think it could be. Could it be Randy, the movie guy? Could it be Dewey, the police officer? Could it be Gail Weathers trying to get another story? But no, it's actually who you think it is. They give it to you up front, just like Matador said.
See, the police are always off track with this shit. If they watch Prom Night, they'd save time. There's a formula to it. A very simple formula. Everybody's a suspect.
But they deceive you with the scene from Nightmare on Elm Street, and to make you think that Billy actually might not be the killer, but he is, and he has an accomplice, and it's probably one of our favorite characters. Stu and Randy are probably one of my all-time favorite characters, but definitely he has an accomplice in Stu, and they set up this elaborate plan to get everyone killed. And here's where the movie is good. They're making their own movie. This is the meta layer to the movie. They're creating their own horror film, and they want to be the survivors. They want to be the final guys. They want to go to the court cases and have the news segments about them and get book deals. This is an actual goal for these young men, and that makes it creepy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the ultra serial killers mindset, right? Like, these are crazy people. They're not looking for anything in particular. Now, granted, Stu doesn't really have a motive, but Billy has his motive.
Peer pressure.
Yeah. An easily influenced friend who's just, he's crazy. He just needed the little push off the edge from the other crazy. So Billy's upset that his mom was fucking, or her mom was fucking his father, and made his mom leave his dad, and so that's like he's got mommy daddy issues. So that's literally why he starts killing everybody. He killed her mom a year before this, and they planned to do the year later.
I'm gonna rip you up, you bitch! Just like your fucking mother!
You gotta find me first, you pansy-ass mama's boy!
Fuck! Fucking hit me with the phone, dick!
So it's just everything that goes into this, when you find out at the end, it's just like, Wow, like you're doing that because your parents was getting freaky and you have abandonment issues.
Yeah, but he was also coerced, but we're not going to dive into Scream 3 just yet. That'll be another show for us to discuss. But we do have, a lot coming up. We do have a new Scream coming up, and we have confirmed characters from the past actually coming back on set. We've seen this. Um, Before we go, I just want to know, like, how excited are you, and what are you expecting, you know, for this new Scream movie, because it's gonna kind of be a soft reboot.
Yeah, so I'm trying to avoid looking into it too much. I want to have some surprise for the killers and all that. I do have my theories. Um, I can't remember his name off top, but the dude from
The
the
cleansing hour.
13 Reasons Why dude.
Oh yeah, him.
So like I think he's the killer. I think he's the killer. I think that they're going to make him into a character that's supposed to mimic Dewey, and we've always had Dewey as he's the ultra nice, the great guy, the helper,
Super
the one that
cop.
gets the one that gets stabbed and survives. And, everything happens to Dewey, but in the first movie, you did have a little bit of reason to believe maybe he's just putting on a facade
Yeah.
and doing all these things. I think that they'll take that idea that I had in the beginning for the first movie and actually put it in there, and they'll make him help and they'll make him seem like Dewey, but then that'll be the swerve. That's my gut instinct for it, having seen these movies, but nothing has been confirmed or anything like that in that direction. That's what I think after having had seen him get casted. I'm like, this is where I imagine it would go. I don't even know if he's playing cop character, blah blah blah. Like it's just that's the person, because if not only is like he could be a Dewey, he's always that kind of like nice boy character that doesn't really understand stuff, but he's kind of just always the good guy. So it'd be nice to kind of get him away from being that good guy character, and then you do that by tricking us to think, oh, this is just kind of the same character he always is, and then boom, he's the killer at the end.
And I agree with you on that. I don't think he's necessarily the killer. I don't really want to give my theories on who I think the killer is because, like you said, I want to go on with some surprises. But we do have some returning cast members that were deceased in the original movie, and they will definitely be back in this movie. And we got a set picture of actual Stu's house reapprising again for the second or third time, but in the reboot. So we're going back to Woodsboro. We're going back to Stu's house, obviously. I feel that it's going to have some type of connection to that. And, I'll just give my hint out there. Maybe not the killer, but I definitely think Officer Judy from Scream 4. I definitely think she has something to do with that. I know we're not really talking about Scream 4, but she does mention she went to high school with them. So the reason why I mentioned that is, do we get a flashback and see Judy in high school with Sydney and Billy and Stu? Does that set something up?
I'm interested to see how they do those scenes, if they are going to go back to like high school like scenes, like how are you going to de-age those actors?
Not saying they're like, oh, they all look amazing, actually.
Oh
Still,
yeah, but this movie is 1996. We're talking about 24 years.
yeah, they're not in high school no more.
Not at
Definitely.
all.
But I mean, we just wanted to talk about one of our favorite movies. And again, we're going to continue to do this show. We're going to watch all different types of movies. We would actually like to know what y'all think we should watch and discuss on our next show. So always just drop down a comment, like, and subscribe to the Retro Matador, and we'll be bringing you guys more reviews and discussions.
Yes,
So,
sir.
Matador, take us out.
All right. I appreciate y'all coming in. We will see you on the flip.
Careful. This is the moment when the supposedly dead killer comes back to life for one last scare.